The Odyssey is one of the oldest stories in the world. On the surface, it looks straightforward. A warrior tries to get home after a war. But the reason people still read it today, nearly 3,000 years later, is that it is not really about distance or monsters. It is about identity, about who you are and whether you are still the same person after everything life throws at you. That question never gets old. People still leave home, they still lose their way, they still struggle with pride, temptation, loneliness, and the fear of being forgotten. That is why the Odyssey survives. The ancient Greeks did not separate everyday life from mythology the way we do today. For them, the gods were not distant figures. They were present in every storm, every sea, every harvest. So when something went wrong, people did not just ask what happened, they asked which god was responsible. This matters because in the Odyssey, nothing is entirely in Odysseus's control. He is smart, brave, and resourceful, but intelligence alone cannot beat fate or divine will. Greek culture was also obsessed with honor and reputation. Being forgotten was almost as bad as dying. Heroes fought not just to survive, but to be remembered. And yet Odysseus is a different kind of hero. He's not the strongest man in battle. His greatest weapon is his mind. He survives by being clever and adaptable, and that changes everything about what this story is really about. Odysseus is one of the most complicated heroes in ancient literature because the story never pretends he is perfect. He is brave, but also arrogant. He is loyal to his family, but capable of lying and manipulation. He is wise, but repeatedly blinded by his own pride. That mix of good and bad is exactly what makes him feel human. His most famous victories come from patience and strategy, not physical force. The Trojan horse, the escape from the Cyclops, his disguise in Ithaca. But his intelligence also gets him into trouble, because he cannot stop needing people to know how clever he is. After escaping the Cyclops, he could have sailed away safely. Instead, he shouts his real name back at the monster, just to get credit for the win. That one moment of pride triggers years of suffering. The epic keeps coming back to this idea. The biggest obstacle is often not the world around us, but the weaknesses inside us. Most stories would end with winning the war. The Odyssey starts after the victory. Troy has fallen. The Greeks should be heading home in triumph. Instead, everything begins to unravel immediately. The very first stops show a pattern that repeats throughout the whole voyage. Survival requires discipline, but human beings keep destroying themselves through greed, recklessness, and poor decisions. The Lotus Eaters introduce one of the earliest and strangest dangers, not violence, but forgetfulness. The lotus plant makes people stop caring about going home. They become comfortable doing nothing. That is one of the story's most unsettling ideas. You do not always lose yourself through disaster. Sometimes you lose yourself through comfort. Odysseus forces his men back onto the ships. He understands that a person without direction slowly stops being themselves. The encounter with the Cyclops Polyphemus is the most famous episode in the entire epic, and one of the most important. The Cyclops represents a world with no rules, no civilization, no hospitality. Pure brute force. Against that, Odysseus cannot win physically. So he uses his brain. The nobody trick is brilliant. By telling the Cyclops his name is nobody, Odysseus turns language into a weapon. When the blinded Cyclops screams that nobody hurt him, the other Cyclops think nothing is wrong and leave. Clean escape. Except Odysseus cannot let it go. As his ships sail away, he shouts his real name across the water. He needs the monster to know who beat him. That moment of vanity awakens the wrath of Poseidon, god of the sea, and from that point on, the ocean itself seems to work against him. The lesson is clear. Victory without humility becomes self-destruction. After the Cyclops, the journey gets progressively worse. At one point, Aeolus gives Odysseus a bag containing all the winds, essentially a shortcut home. Ithaca is already visible on the horizon, but the crew, suspicious and greedy, opens the bag while Odysseus sleeps. The winds escape and blow them far off course. Disaster comes from within the group, not from outside. Then the Laestrygonians destroy nearly the entire fleet. Odysseus goes from commanding an army to leading the survivors on a single ship. The epic is deliberately stripping him of everything: his men, his power, his certainty. By the midpoint of the story, only the individual is left. Then comes Circe, a sorceress who turns men into pigs. Unlike previous threats, she does not attack, she seduces. She represents what happens when people surrender completely to pleasure and instinct. Odysseus resists her magic, but even he stays on her island far longer than he should. Again, the same theme: you do not always get lost through catastrophe. Sometimes you get lost because things feel good. Eventually, Odysseus travels to the underworld, the realm of the dead. This is the most symbolic moment of the entire journey. He is not just visiting a dark place, he is confronting the reality of mortality. Among the dead, glory suddenly looks hollow. The great warrior Achilles admits he would rather be alive as a poor farmer than rule as a king among the dead. That single statement quietly turns Greek heroic values upside down. For perhaps the first time, Odysseus fully understands that no amount of cleverness can defeat death forever. After this point, the story shifts. The adventures that follow are no longer about conquest. They are about endurance. The sirens do not attack. They sing. They offer knowledge, beauty, and understanding, and their voice is impossible to resist. Odysseus wants to hear them, but he knows he cannot trust himself, so he has his men tie him to the mast and block their own ears with wax. He listens to the song while being physically prevented from acting on it. This is one of the most psychologically mature moments in the epic. True wisdom is not pretending to be above temptation. It is knowing your weaknesses before they destroy you, and building safeguards around them. Then come Scylla and Charybdis, a six-headed monster on one side and a deadly whirlpool on the other. There is no good option. No matter what Odysseus chooses, people will die. The story offers no clever solution here. Sometimes leadership means accepting unavoidable loss. Sometimes there is no right answer, only the least terrible one. When Odysseus arrives on Calypso's island, the story reaches its strangest moment. Calypso is a goddess, and she loves him. She offers him immortality, an end to all suffering, storms, and fear. No more danger, no more grief, just an eternal peaceful life. He refuses. What he wants is not eternal life. He wants home. This is the emotional center of the entire epic. Home is not just a location, it is memory, identity, and belonging. Without those things, without the people and places that make you who you are, even paradise becomes a prison. While Odysseus has been struggling to return, his home has been falling apart. A crowd of arrogant men have moved into his house. They eat his food, drink his wine, and pressure his wife Penelope to remarry, assuming Odysseus is dead. Penelope resists them through cleverness, famously unraveling at night a piece of weaving she worked on during the day, stalling for time. She's not waiting passively, she's fighting in the only way available to her. Meanwhile, Odysseus's son Telemachus has grown up fatherless and uncertain. His quiet journey through the story is about learning how to become an adult, how to speak up, make decisions, and eventually stand alongside his father. When Odysseus finally lands in Ithaca, he arrives disguised as a beggar. He watches his own home as an outsider, seeing who stayed loyal, who became corrupt, and what years of chaos have done to everyone he left behind. Recognition happens slowly. Old servants, his son, eventually Penelope, who does not simply throw herself into his arms. She tests him. She has been deceived before. Recognition must be earned. The famous bow contest is the turning point. Only Odysseus can string his own bow. The weapon identifies its true owner before anyone else can. What follows is violent. Odysseus and Telemachus kill the suitors, reclaiming the house through bloodshed. The ending is deliberately uncomfortable. At what point does justice become revenge? The epic does not give a clean answer. By the time Odysseus reaches home, he is not the same man who left Troy. Every obstacle in the story represents a different way human beings lose themselves. Pride after the Cyclops, forgetfulness with the Lotus Eaters, pleasure with Circe, comfort with Calypso, the denial of death in the underworld. Each one is a way of drifting away from who you are. What makes Odysseus worth following is not that he handles all of this perfectly. He fails repeatedly. He makes terrible decisions. He loses people he should have protected. What matters is that he keeps going. Again and again, despite grief and exhaustion and guilt, he chooses to move forward. He keeps trying to find his way back to something worth calling home. And that is probably why this story has survived for 3,000 years, because life rarely feels like a straight path to victory. More often, it feels like trying to stay yourself while the world keeps pulling you in different directions, while temptation, comfort, fear and time all chip away at whoever you used to be. In the end, the Odyssey is not really teaching you how to fight monsters. It is asking whether a person can travel through chaos, loss and change, and still find their way back to something real. If you made it this far, you clearly care about stories that actually mean something. Hit like if this one stayed with you, and subscribe so you don't miss what comes next. Yours truly, Mythos, the Historian.